Scorsett. This is Robin Hensel, and we're here for Can We Talk? It's Wednesday, February 8th, 2017. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning.
Well, good afternoon. I guess it is afternoon.
It is afternoon, yeah.
I know. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
What have we got on the docket for today?
Well, we're going to be discussing the City of Little Falls and cable TV and the review board meetings and the status of all of that.
The franchise and the whole business.
The lack of the franchise and all of that.
Okay.
I went to a meeting that was called here, just to start sort of at the most current beginning here, to update people. There is going to be now, because of my persistence and my insistence, a public hearing that will be held, according to John Rademacher, after this last meeting that was just held Monday of this week on February 6th. That public hearing, so that consumers of Spectrum TV or internet or their telephone, whatever they subscribe to with Charter Spectrum, anyone in the public can come to that public hearing. It will be advertised in the newspaper, in the Morrison County Record. And my hope is to lay out the factual information about the important stuff that's happened or not happened that should have happened in the last, since 2012, since I got active in filming here and started to track everything as far as the contract and everything to do with cable TV. Because this is the most wonderful venue for free speech in town besides my blog. This has, public access shows have the potential to reach over 2,000 consumers, local Little Fallsians. And so it's a very important venue for free speech. In fact, it states that in the FCC information that I'll be sharing in a minute, that's the main premise, the main purpose of public access TV is to accommodate local free speech. So this meeting on February 6th was held right here in the back of the studio, and towards the end of that meeting, I made known to the group that was there, including John Rademacher, Councillor Leif Hansen, who is my representative of Ward 1, and Jay Spillum, who was the president, and the other ones present were Al Stencil, Thor Lindquist, Norm Sandberg, Mark Sloop was there, the manager of the television station here, and Jill Moore, Mark Deal from the school, and myself. And I filmed that and put that on my blog so people can see my having to urge the city. After numbers of times, they finally heard what I had to say and agreed to have this mandatory, this required public hearing. And so that's why I want to share this, because I want people to be informed as far as everything, so they're well informed before they go to the public hearing in March. There was a meeting that was supposed to occur on January 23rd here at the studio, and that meeting never took place because there was no quorum. At that meeting, John Rademacher was there, Leif Hansen, Mark Deal from the school, Jill Moore, Mark Sloop, and myself. Missing from that meeting, and I have no idea why, this was a meeting that was published on the city open meetings for months now. And it was decided at the meeting in October that would be the date, January 23rd. So I don't know why Al Sandberg, Thor Lundquist, Jay Spillum, and Al Stencil didn't show up for that one, but that didn't occur. And they were supposed to discuss on this agenda here. The station manager gave his update, and then Channel 180, Channel 181, that's the school channels, 181. Channel 180 is this public access channel. And then an update on the franchise renewal with Charter Communications was supposed to take place at that meeting. Okay, the next scheduled meeting, in case others want to come, I should let everyone know this, is April 17th of 2017 at 1 p.m. here at the studio. Unless you and I are able to convince John Rademacher, the city administrator, through a second email that we would like these meetings to be held at the City Hall because they're public meetings. And sometime within the last couple of months, it was, I believe, in latter part of December or early January, there was a new thing that started here, and that was that no one can record unauthorized in this studio. And this notice, forgive the water spots there, but this notice was on the back wall here as you walk into the back of the studio, and it was also posted in the front. And I made a complaint about this to John Rademacher, maybe 2 weeks ago, and stated that both you and I wanted to have it moved because this is a public meeting, and I feel it's inappropriate, maybe not even legal, to have a public meeting in a venue where audio and video recording is forbidden. For instance, there is another meeting that's held off-site that's an official city meeting, and it's the HRA meeting. You and I have attended a number of times over at the Pine Grove Manor. But there's no sign like this at that facility. And for the purposes of public meetings, it makes sense to have it at City Hall. They could actually be recorded then as well, because there's recording capability within the chamber there.
Within the chamber. Not only that, but at City Hall they're making some progress toward getting the building to be fully handicapped accessible, and I would think that for a public meeting place that would be pretty important.
Right.
Here there's stairs and there's corners and there's tight fits and
right. Well, you can come in the front door here, but it makes sense to have a city meeting at City Hall.
It does,
especially when there's this restriction. This notice says unauthorized video and audio recording is prohibited in this facility. See GRA TV station manager to have any video and or audio recording approved. Thank you, Mark Sloop, GRA TV station manager. I want to share, I read all the city agenda for all the meetings that are upcoming, and I noticed in August there was a meeting that was held here, and that is when John Rademacher, that's August 8th of 2016, John Rademacher gave an update saying that there was no progress yet on the cable franchise. And after that meeting, there was another meeting in October, and I put on my blog a lot of this information about the fact that there is no required franchise agreement since it expired in May 15th of 2015. I put that up on my blog, all of that information, and after I did that, someone took the initiative to make a data request with the city. And this is public information. It's published in the city agenda minutes, or the packet that goes out to the council and the public. And it's dated 10/24/16, and it's in typewritten letters at the bottom. It says, "I would like copies of the following: copy of the present franchise agreement between the City of Little Falls and Charter Cable. Number 2, one copy of the agreement between the City of Little Falls and Great River Arts for the operation of local channel access channel 180. One copy of the agreement between the City of Little Falls and the Little Falls School District for the operation of local access 181. So at least one other person in this city, that's not me. I handwrite out all my data requests. And someone else is concerned enough about the fact that we don't have the legally required franchise agreement and haven't had it since it expired May 15th of 2015. That's a year and a half ago.
Let's just pause for a moment to let the public know that one of the reasons that this is important is that every consumer of any of the Spectrum Charter products is paying a franchise fee.
Right.
For this franchise that has taken forever to get going and is not yet in force. There's a PEG fee. I'm not sure what PEG stands for, but look at your cable bill if you have Spectrum cable, and you'll see that there are a number of fees that you pay that just kind of disappear into the ocean of budgetary issues in the city. The city is collecting money from those fees to outfit the studio, to pay the producer, all of which is perfectly legit. But I think we should have a healthy curiosity about how exactly that falls out.
Well, the franchise fees are paid. We pay, you and I, we're both customers, and I pay, my bill is almost $200 a month for having internet, phone, and television service. That's a lot of money. And our franchise fees and our pay fees are paid, we pay them to Charter, and then Charter pays them to the city. And the city can use its own discretion as to how they spend it. And I have stated this to John Rademacher. I don't think it's legal for the city or for Charter to be collecting franchise fees when there is no franchise agreement.
Right.
I don't think it's legal.
I don't think so either, and it leaves, excuse me, it leaves the public without a clear track for complaints and for issues, and it's for something that we're paying for. It just simply seems wrong to me that we don't have that.
Well, in fact, there is no. We're going to get into all of this, and we'll start at this point. There is no established telephone line that is required by the Minnesota statute for cable television to have. And I found that out recently too. So consumers like you and I say we have a complaint about chip spectrum and we want to talk to somebody about it, but we don't want to talk to spectrum. Let's say we have issues with how this is being run. That might be a good example.
Okay.
The city is required under this Minnesota statute 238 I believe it's 115, and I have it. It's coming up here in this pile. To have established a telephone line that is not associated with the spectrum, with the cable provider.
It doesn't go straight to them. It's a consumer.
Guess what?
Complaint line.
It's another area that this city has been negligent in and has not done their due diligence. They haven't done it. It's not available. So we'll get into that in a minute. But I'm going to start with this email that I was given, and I can't remember if I got this at the meeting at August 8th in 2012 or if I did a data request to get this. But this is a letter from Bob Vos, who is the attorney who has been hired by the city, and he's been working on this for years, on and off, evidently. Cost taxpayer money, a lot of money to hire him. This is a letter from him that was given and read or introduced, given it was available to everybody at the meeting, the Cable Review Board meeting, back in 2012. And it reads, although Minnesota, I'll read it from the top. This memo addresses two issues. And it says from Bob Vos, Kennedy and Graven, it's dated August 8th, 2012, cable franchise renewal. The federal cable franchise renewal process and the most significant renewal issues. Process. Although Minnesota State Law, Chapter 238 addresses cable manners, franchise renewals are governed solely by federal law. Under federal law, a cable company must request renewal in writing during the 6-month period from 36 to 30 months prior to the expiration, which would have been back in 2012, because the contract expired May 15th of 2015. It was initiated in 2000. It was a 15-year contract. The current franchise was granted in 2000 for a term of 4 years, and with an 11-year extension if Charter upgraded the system. The franchise expires in 2015 because Charter upgraded. Accordingly, Charter will request renewal of its franchise in the next few months. Within 6 months of that request, the city must commence a proceeding that gives the public notice and opportunity to participate. The purpose of the proceeding is to review the company's franchise compliance and past performance, and identify the community's future cable-related needs and interests. This review is the source of the city's leverage. Now, what that means is, and I had to explain this to Norm Sandberg at the last minute. He asked me, sort of snide, like, Well, what was the purpose of the public meeting, the public hearing? What would it accomplish? And a number of people at the last cable meeting were making fun of the fact that that needed to occur. In other words, making light of whether or not it was even necessary.
Right.
And I shared with him this, that it is the source of the city's leverage. So if there are complaints, say for instance about the fact that we all had to switch back a couple of years ago when they upgraded and it was no longer went from channel 6 to the higher channels of 180,
And
something else changed. We all had to buy, for the first time, a receiver box of $6.99 per month. And not only did you have to have that, you had to have it for every different television in every room in your house. You could no longer run off with just that one box. Prior to that, it only cost me $6.99 or $4.99. It was cheaper. I think it was $4.99 to run every TV in my house, and even the TV that was in my garage,
from one box.
from one box. So that changed. So if, say in my situation, and I used to do foster care, that's why I had a television in every room. So it was convenient, so every kid that was visiting my house would have a television to watch. I run televisions in my living room, 4 of my bedrooms, and my garage. And I also had one at one time in my basement. So if I was down there doing laundry or any projects in the basement, maybe working in my workshop or whatever. So I had 6. Is that 6? 6 or 7.
A lot.
Now I had, if I wanted to run all those TVs, I had to pay an extra $6.99 per month.
For each
I
one.
don't like that. And I
Yeah.
don't imagine there's a lot of other people that would like that either. So that's a legitimate beef.
It is.
Those kind of things need to be aired at the public hearing, need to be shared with the city. The other thing that changed is when you return your box, it used to be that you could return them at Coburn's and some different places in town here to save a trip to St. Cloud. I think that changed, and I think now you got to run it all the way back down to St. Cloud.
Or mail it. They will provide you with a mailing box.
Right, but that's another.
It's another step. It's another.
It's a customer non-friendly. Puts more work on the consumer.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me. And I also did read most of what I'm reading here now in a public forum statement back last fall, in August sometime, I believe it was, to complain about all this stuff to the city, that it was wrong for them to not have this franchise that's required, to be so negligent. So I've done everything I possibly can to urge the city to get their act together and do this, because frankly, this is all illegal in every possible capacity or way right now. This city is in violation of the Federal Communications Act of 1934, the Federal Communications Act of 1984, the Minnesota statute that is required of number 238, and other ways. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. And that bothers me. Laws are implemented and made so that they are to be followed. Not
By everyone.
by everyone, not thrown out the window because they don't want to do their work.
Right.
Okay, the first step. The city needs to determine how it will review charter's past performance and franchise compliance and determine future cable-related needs. Now, this should all be discussed at this public hearing. The city has a responsibility to lay this out for the public. Not me. This isn't on me. The city should be doing this job. Federal law does not dictate how the process is conducted. Cities commonly hold public hearings, obtain audits, perform community review surveys and or engage in an internal review of franchise issues. Okay, the city is responsible for producing, operating, and funding access programming. All right, and I think that's all I have to share from this document, but I don't want to miss anything. All right, so that's that document.
I'm always so impressed with your scholarship. You just really drill down on all of these issues.
I pour hours and hours and hours into knowing the business of this city. And the job that I'm doing is the job that every one of our counselors and every one of those people that sits on that cable review board that I already mentioned should know. No, it shouldn't have been up to me to educate Norm Sandberg. He's been on this commission as long as I've been doing cable, being involved in cable, which started in early 2012. And he didn't know this information. And I doubt most of the information I'm sharing, that I've dug for and found and highlighted and got all this organized, took me more than 3 hours to prepare this yesterday. They don't know this information. And then the reason is because they're not doing their job.
Right.
I probably know the packet information for every city council meeting and work session better than all of the people that are being paid for it. And by the way, it is a legitimate beef that people in this city should make to their councilors as well as to the city administrator. Councilors are paid $850 a month.
That much?
$850 a month. The mayor and the president, who is now Jeremy Hensel, are paid, it's either $900 or $950 a month. Do the math, folks. They have 2 meetings to go to per month. A work session meeting, which precedes the cable meeting. Both of those meetings together average about 2 hours each night.
You said the cable meeting. You mean
City council meeting, right? And a work session before. The only mandatory meetings they have to attend, and they're not even mandatory, they can miss and still get paid. But they have a total of 2 council meetings and 2 work sessions to go to each month, which average about 1 hour apiece. So
it's 4 hours.
4 hours of work for $850. That's more than our city attorney is paid. Our city attorney gets $160 an hour. These counselors are being paid between $200 and $225, maybe $250 an hour. That's good money. Nobody else in this city makes that money except the doctors and the lawyers and
Right.
maybe our school superintendent.
We do have to add in that they are supposed to come fully prepared. They're supposed to have read the materials. They're supposed to keep their ear to the ground for city issues. Some of them also serve on committees, but that's at their discretion. So, there are more hours than that specifically that are involved. But the ones where they have to be there in person amount to just a few hours a month. Okay.
We know they don't do their due diligence because in one meeting, remember, a couple of years ago, Frank Oshik asked me what their rules were, and I was able to tell him what their rules were. I cited them right away.
Yeah.
I knew it, and they didn't.
So, theoretically, they're supposed to have all of this extra.
The rules on how to
homework,
conduct their meetings, that is. That they were required to know. Okay, no cable service. Now, this is from 47 U.S. Code 541, General Franchise Requirements. This is a federal law. Item B, no cable service without franchise, exception under prior law, except to the extent provided in paragraph 2 and subsection F of this section. A cable operator may not provide cable service without a franchise. Paragraph shall not require any person lawfully providing cable service without a franchise on July 1st, 1984 to obtain a franchise unless the franchising authority so requires. So you can't not have the required franchise fee. It's mandatory. Local or municipal authority as multi-channel video recording distributor. No provision of this chapter shall be construed to prohibit a local or municipal authority that is also or is affiliated with a franchise authority from operating as a multi-channel video programming distributor in the franchise area, notwithstanding the granting of one or more franchises by such franchising authority, or require such local or municipal authority to secure a franchise to operate as a multi-channel video programming distributor. So one of the things I know that I want to air my beef at this public hearing is, and I think others should do this too, I'm going to ask for my franchise fee back.
Me too. Going all the way back.
Retroactive to when it expired.
When was that, 2015?
May 15th, 2015. I think
nice
the
chunk of
city
change,
owes
folks.
that money back to the consumers.
Yeah. It amounts to hundreds.
And maybe there's more that the people who live in this city that are being charged for can recoup. Okay, so I have a letter here that I wrote to John Rademacher on July 25th. And it reads, this is his response to me. I wrote to him and asked him, I asked him why hadn't, I don't know what happened to the other part of this, but what I asked him was why, I said that it wasn't acceptable that we didn't have a franchise agreement. he writes back, he says, it is the opinion of Charter's attorneys. Now, not our attorneys. Not our attorney, City Bob Voss. But Charter's attorneys, that they may continue operations of an expired franchise contract until a renewal is complete, so long as they are maintaining the terms of the expired franchise contract. The city is actively discussing a renewal with Charter. So he admits here in writing that they're in negotiations without having that required public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
The city has a contract with Great River Arch to operate the cable access channel, and they have been meeting the terms of this agreement.
May I just say something?
Mm-hmm.
This is not an opinion, it's just to let the viewers know that we're using the term spectrum and the term charter interchangeably. They are the same entity, in case you're listening and
Right,
confused about
right.
who we're talking about.
And we're going to get into that down the pike here a little ways, because Charter has turned into Spectrum, and then they've been bought out by Time Warner. So they're with, I think Time Warner's they're one of the 6 biggest telecommunication companies in the world. I believe
Yeah.
that's right. Something like
Huge.
that. Okay. This is, I'm going to set this aside.
As long as we're going through papers, let me just make this little declaration too.
Right.
We've kind of pulled this out of the air as far as Mark Sloop is concerned. He's running the camera now. He's the manager of the cable channel 180. So he's not complicit in anything that we're reporting here. He had no idea we were bringing this to the table. I just want to say that because I don't want anyone thinking that Mark is involved.
Right. So this is the part of the Communications Act, Cable Communications Policy Act of 1984, a federal law. It reads, the Cable Communications Policy Act of 1984, quoted at 47 U.S.C. Chapter 5, Subdivision 5-A, was an act of Congress passed on October 30th, 1984 to promote competition and deregulate the cable industry. The act established a national policy for the regulation of cable communications by federal, state, and local authorities. So it was an act to provide more options and available services, to keep the price down for people. That was the reason that this was developed. And then on the second page of this it reads, in return for establishing franchise standards and procedures, the act specified that cable operators were expected to be receptive to their local communities' needs and interests. Congress recognized the vital role of cable television in encouraging and providing a place for free expression, in other words, free speech. This provision assured that cable communications provide the general public with the widest possible diversity of information, sources, and services. Through this statute, Congress attempted to uphold the First Amendment interest of cable audiences to receive diversified information as specified in the Red Lion Broadcasting Company v. Federal Communications Court case of 1969. Furthermore, it prohibited cable operators from exerting any type of editorial control over program content through PEG channels and freed them from any potential liability for the content. There is a law, Little Falls City Ordinance, and they've been deleting laws so fast and furious here in the last couple of years. I don't know if this is, thank you, I don't know if this is still an active ordinance. I believe it is, but I'm not sure. So if you want to know this information, you'd have to get a hold of the city and do a data request like I would have to do. This states,
Do you have a date on that one? I'm sorry.
yes, it was, this was signed by Richard Carlson. He was the city administrator, and it's approved this 15th day of May 2000, when this cable franchise fee was also implemented or signed. So contract with Charter was May 15th, 2000, 15th of May 2000, and this
2000.
was also passed that day.
Okay.
It says it's ordinance number 2, 5th series, an ordinance granting a franchise to CC, is that 8?
I can't see
Operating
from
LLC DBA Charter Communications, a Delaware limited liability company, to construct, operate, and maintain a cable system in the city of Little Falls, setting forth conditions accompanying the grant of the franchise, providing for regulation and the use of the system and public rights-of-way, and prescribing penalties for the violation of the provisions herein. So there's penalties in this. There's teeth in this.
Mm-hmm.
And teeth was discussed at that most recent cable board meeting. They didn't think they had any teeth, any way to enforce any of this. Contraire.
Mm-hmm.
City of St. Cloud did, and we're going to get into that in a minute. Right. City of St. Cloud found cable charter in violation of their law. And they did something about it. They threatened them. And that's when they were able to get their contract through. We'll talk about that in just a second. The city intends by adoption of this franchise to bring about the further development of a cable system and the continued operation of it. There's more, but I'm not going to read all of that. It says the cable granted to the grantee by the city complies with the existing applicable Minnesota statutes, that 238 I talked about, federal laws and regulations. So in other words, they're binding themselves here with this law to all of those laws.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all I need to read from this document. There's maybe something about teeth in here yet.
It's an awful lot of paperwork to get through.
Yeah, sorry about this pause, folks. I believe it says somewhere in here that, oh yeah, here we go. For failure to provide the services grantee has proposed, including but not limited to, the implementation and utilization of the access channels and the maintenance and or replacement of the equipment of other facilities, the penalty shall be $200 per day. For each day or part thereof, such failure occurs or continues. And that also is if they're not in compliance, charter can be billed that money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what St. Cloud threatened to do. Now I want to bring up that the contract here between Great River Arts and the city, and this is just Great River Arts, this is not the one for the school, there's a separate one for the school, was signed. It says here effective March 3rd, 2014 through December 31st of 2016 and year to year thereafter unless terminated. So each year this contract automatically renews at the end of the year unless the city's given notice by Great River Arts. And it states that GRA shall retain all revenue generated by its operations, including but not limited to sales of advertising, sponsorships, and fees for copying programs. GRA shall not charge to run programming materials shown on Channel 6, but may seek and charge for sponsorships. And it talks about the city retaining money. It says compensation shall be calculated based on a percentage of the combined total revenue that the city received in the previous year from cable franchise fees and PEG fees. GRA shall be paid 61% of the prior year's combined total revenue payable in equal monthly installments payable on the first day of the month.
So when you talk about sponsorship, you're talking about commercial advertising.
Yes,
Okay.
and we're going to get into that coming up here in the future. That may have to go into the second show because we're already past 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But part of this agreement with Great River Arts and the city states, that they shall serve as a liaison to the Federal Communications Commission and state regulators in regard to public access programming and regulations. That is why...
That went over my head.
Okay, I'm going to read it again.
Yeah.
That they are to serve as a liaison to the Federal Communications Commission and state regulators in regard to public access programming and regulations. I am going to say, and this is just my opinion, I believe that requires them then to be in contact with and helping urge that the city is in non-compliance with all these laws.
So you're talking about GRA then?
Yes.
Is it, okay.
I think that language obligates them to be in contact and actively working on that. I think that's why Mark as well as Jill come to the meetings. Okay, so now we're going to get on to, this is an article from the Morrison County Record published August 23rd of 2014 by Terry Lurkey. In March, the city contract, the title of it is Charter Given Go-Ahead to Move Little Falls Local Access Channels to 180 and 181. In March, the city contracted with Great River Arts and the Little Falls School District to run the channels, one as the public access channel, the other as the educational channel for the school district and activities. The city has a franchise agreement with Charter Communications to provide local access channels 6 and 12 to city residents who get their cable services from Charter. See, that was correct at the time, because at the time that contract was in effect, this is 14, it didn't expire till 15, so that is accurate. Charter requested and received a waiver from its franchise requirements so it could relocate public, educational, and government PEG local cable programming to higher channel number locations.
So that's when the switch from Channel 6 to
now,
180.
there's another document I want to tell the public about. This is Resolution 2014-80. It's resolution authorizing consent to change of control. And it says, whereas on February 12th, 2014, Comcast Corporation and Time Warner Cable, Inc. entered an agreement to merge. Okay? That's when they merged to become part of Time
Is that when the name
Warner.
changed to Spectrum, do you think?
Yes, I believe so. Now, I have an article, and I'm not going to have time to read all this, but I want the public to do the reading for themselves. AT&T purchase of Time Warner calls for scrutiny. And basically, this article talks about the bigger these companies get, the more they can hold a monopoly. And that's dangerous to consumers.
We know that from civics, from 8th grade civics class.
So again, the title of the article, you can research this online. It's called AT&T Purchase of Time Warner Calls for Scrutiny. There were legislators that vehemently opposed that because it disadvantages the consumers. Makes all of our bills higher, frankly. Okay, now this is a letter, certified mail, that came to Dan Vogt on March 14th of 2014, and I'm only going to read part of it. Charter, it's from Charter to our former city administrator.
Okay.
Charter currently faces substantial and increasing competition from direct broadcast satellite DBS providers, telephone companies, as well as alternative sources of video content on the internet. Consumers in your community have a choice among at least 3 competing subscription video providers: Charter, Dish Network, and DirecTV. Competition from DirecTV and Dish Network has taken a significant toll on Charter, as its video penetration in your city has dropped to the lowest level in over 10 years. As a result of Charter's dwindling penetration in the city, and because DirecTV and Dish Network do not carry PEG programming, this community-oriented programming reaches significantly fewer residents than in previous years. There are common reasons for working with Charter on this. They are discussing the contract. Our ability to compete and regain market share increases the amount of Charter's franchise fee and PEG payments to the city, and increases the amount of potential viewers of local programming in your community. DirecTV and Dish Network provide none of these benefits. That's part of their beef. They're the only ones having to collect these fees from the customers here.
Right.
That's not right. I think they have a legitimate beef there. Why aren't these other 2 companies, when they're allowed to penetrate our city and operate here, why aren't they held to the same standards? I don't understand that.
Well, because they're not providing a cable access voice of the people, perhaps.
It says, indeed, your city's collection of franchise fees from Charter is dependent on Charter being able to compete successfully with competitors that do not pay those fees. In just 2013, Charter remitted franchise fees amounts of $95,576.94, 94 cents for the city.
I'm sorry, repeat that figure.
$95,576.94, and now it's over $100,000.
Wow.
That's money that's it's being split between Great River Arts and the school. So we're talking about $70,000 roughly being given to a nonprofit, not specifically for public access, but a nonprofit that's using some of those fees. They get to run it. They get to use those monies however they like. And then about $30,000 a year is going to the school. That's not franchise fees. That's just paid fees.
Some of you
City keeps, well, there may be some of the franchise fees in that, but I don't think so. I think that's just the pig fees. And the city withholds a certain amount for them to keep themselves, okay?
and this all comes from consumers
Right.
of the products.
With your community's consent, Charter will consolidate each city public education and government PEG channel into a new neighborhood on the basic tier of service effective August of 2014. And so I think that's all I needed to share from that document. Okay, and I don't know how much time we have left here. Okay, we have enough to continue then. I want to share some basic information about public access television. There is this neat group out there called the Alliance for Community Media, Foundation of the Alliance for Community Media. And I don't know if we are a member of that, if Great River TV or Great River Arts is part of that, or the city is part of it. I don't know that. But I think if not, we should be. And I'll read some of this information about them. In order for democracy to flourish, people must be active participants in their government, educated to think critically, and free to express themselves. Founded in 1976, the Alliance represents over 3,000 public educational and governmental PEG access organizations and community media centers throughout the country. The ACM works to protect the interests of these access centers and those who use PEG facilities and equipment to advance their causes through cable television and the internet. We also represent local community groups, public schools, religious institutions, colleges and universities, government officials, second language communities, national institutions such as NSA, the Department of Education, and the U.S. Army. ACM mission is: the Alliance for Community Media is a national membership organization that advocates, promotes, and preserves the right to media training, production, distribution, civic engagement, and education in support of a diverse community voices. I shouldn't have said A there. In support of diverse community voices. Through public educational and government access channels and other forms of media. All communities have the resources, ability, and right to express themselves, create community dialogue, and engage in civic life through local media. Guiding principles are promote free speech, expand civic engagement through local media, collaborate with others, and act with one voice. And this is just some more repeat of that.
So if, I heard the second language group mentioned, so if someone wanted to present a Somali program aimed at Somali viewers and consumers, that would be acceptable. We have very few Somalis in Little Falls, but there are a great many in St. Cloud, of course. So.
This is dated September 21st, 2015. It says, the Alliance for Community Media and its members are concerned about the ramifications of the proposed merger between Charter Communications, Time Warner, and Bright House Networks to create a new charter. We have identified a significant number of cases which reveal troubling actions by Charter as it relates to the company's public educational and government PEG access and other local public service obligations. So this organization could help this city, if we're not in this organization could help to form a contract, a franchise agreement that's available to this city.
And it certainly should be brought up at the public hearing for the people who are
as
not
well
aware
as
of
me
it.
bringing it up here. Rest assured, I'm going to bring my ammo to that meeting, folks.
Yes.
And my ammo is this paperwork. You know, I've been digging some more. See, when Chris was here, he encouraged me.
That was the last
Chris
manager.
Wise. We never had any issues with Chris Wise, which was really nice to be able to film our programs and no hassles and no changes and, you know, just smooth sailing. He worked well with us and all our guests. Never had any hassles. He encouraged me to do some digging, and I did. And there's this organization. It's out of Warren, Rhode Island, and this is a public access channel. It's called Full Channel. And this is revised in July of 2011. And I'm just going to read the access objectives. This is for another group like GRA TV here, GRTV. Full Channel has its primary concern in its access policy for community service programming the view that the major goal for the company is to provide necessary training and resources which will ensure production of meaningful programs by community residents. That's like you and I. Access principles. Full Channel shall promote the reasonable use of access channels and encourage as many people as possible to utilize these services. Promote and encourage wide-ranging and diverse programming. Not censor any material except maintain non-violation of federal and state laws and regulations as they apply to Full Channel system procedures and operations. Provide technical assistance and expertise. An access user is any resident of the service area. And then it goes into some more things about this is their basic policy and procedure. Okay? It differs substantially from the policy and procedure for Great River TV. Here is the mission statement for GRA Public Access TV here. It is the mission of GRA Public Access Television, GRA TV, to provide opportunities to individuals, educational, governmental, civic, and charitable groups to produce and cablecast programs that will promote public forums, economic growth, now that's never mentioned in that other one, and enrichment of the multicultural, artistic, and civic aspects of the life in the city in a fair, timely, and accurate manner. By its nature, the views and opinions presented in community productions are those of the originating person or group and do not represent the views and opinions of GRA. Now, in the next segment, we're going to get into more detail about what has happened here with us, with filming and different restrictions and stuff in greater depth than we've had a chance to address here. I guess I'm probably going to keep going until our time runs out. So maybe in conjunction with that, we'll talk about, I found this information that is dated 2014 that was online when Great River Arts was looking to hire a cable access manager. This is before Chris Wise was hired. And I want to say that Chris's mission, and he told us about this every time we talked to him when we come in here. He was making progress to get it set up in here. He had a little desk in here and a computer, and he wanted to train you and I and other people in the community so that we could use all the equipment in here to make our own recordings. He wanted to get us up to speed. And he believed, as we do, that the main premise and of the Federal Communications Act, the Congress, that the primary motive of having public access television is for free speech for people in the community.
Right.
We didn't make that up. He didn't make that up. That's our Congress decided that.
Yeah.
I don't
Long
believe
ago.
that's been happening since the city decided to It's something changed, a lot of things changed dramatically when Chris left and Mark was hired. Okay, I want to read to you what it says in the advertisement. Station manager, public access television station, Little Falls, Minnesota. Great River Arts seeks applicants for the position of station manager for public access and government television station. Great River Arts, a non-profit center in Little Falls, Minnesota, has recently assumed operations of a local public access and government television station. We seek a qualified person, preferably with experience and training, to assume the position of station manager. These are some of the responsibilities of the station manager. Coordinate programming to be broadcast on Great River Television, including taping and broadcasting local city council and county board meetings, broadcasting programming created by community members, and creating new community programming. Facilitate the broadest of community-created programming. Direct training of community members who wish to use GRA TV equipment to create programming. Duties may include, but are not limited to, editing programs, including adding graphics and titles and burning to DVD. Develop and maintain community public relations for station. Explore new ways for community to utilize public access television. Experience and knowledge with public access and government television. Familiarity with public access laws and regulations. Now I know Chris was up to snuff with the regulations and the rules of public access. I don't know that currently with the current manager, who is Mark Sloop, who is recording us right now. And as long as we still have some time left, now I'm going to get into more of this policy and procedures guide. And I don't know if this is still current or not. Last time I talked to Jill Moore in here, I know it was 2 meetings that was on the January 23rd meeting that didn't occur because they didn't have a quorum. Jill Moore told me that there was going to be some updates to this policy and procedure guide, which was adopted November 12th, 2014. So this might not be current, I don't know. But I want to talk about things that are in here that are of interest. And right here I want to insert that today when we came in to record, we were told for the first time that I couldn't use my camera, which is right here in my bag. I didn't take it out with my tripod. I normally do this. I normally record everything in here, and then I go home and I upload with my camera onto my computer. This is one of my cameras. And I put it directly on my blog. I've always been allowed to do that. By Chris and by Mark. Until today. And when I asked about a policy, he just basically stated that, well, things had changed and it was a new policy, and that because some of what I had recorded in here was unauthorized, and he has to make sure that everything going out the door is authorized. So I had 2 options. I could record with my camera, and I could get him a DVD of my filming of it, and then it could be broadcast on public access, or he would record with his camera. Mine would not be used to recording, and he'll provide me a DVD of today's recording by this coming Monday, which would be the 13th of February, to put on my blog, which is better for me because, in a sense, that's, I don't have to edit it, title it, and all that other stuff, and it's a professional recording. So that part is fine. I'm okay with that. But it's just another change that I question, what's going on here? I tell you, in the last 5.5 years or so, every time I bring my camera places, it makes people nervous. And I think the reason is because sometimes people don't keep their mouth shut. That's not my job. If I'm at a public meeting, let's say at City Hall, or at the HRA meeting over at the Pine Grove Manor, it's not uncommon at all for me to walk in. I get there maybe 15, 20 minutes before the meeting. Sometimes I turn it on right away so that I don't forget because I'm doing other things, preparing my public forum or whatever. I just turn it on because it's convenient and I know I can clip it, audit it, or edit it when I get home and, put on what I want. In the event, what happened here on January 23rd, I started the camera just moments before it was 1 o'clock when the meeting was supposed to occur, and it never did occur. And then after that meeting, I was asked to turn off the camera, which I did when I was talking to Jill about some complaints that I had about what I feel is advertising going on this channel. I turned the camera off, and then we had a discussion, and I was told in that discussion that because I had recorded the meeting that never occurred, I was in violation of their rules. So I contacted Chris McNulty of iPad Office in the Twin Cities and asked, in this situation, I explained to him what happened, that I had to have authorization to record a public meeting. He sent me a case law that clearly says members of the public or members of the press can record public meetings. Now that doesn't mean you can't record if the meeting doesn't occur. At the time of the meeting, when it's called, if there's no quorum, I have a right to record everything that happens.
The point at which the meeting would have started.
Right.
And
which is 1 o'clock here.
Right.
Now this last meeting, Monday of this week, February 6th, I brought in my camera, set it up, and I didn't get in here till like 5 minutes to 1. I was out in the car doing some other computer work. And I had intended to turn the camera on at 1 o'clock when the meeting was supposed to start, and that's exactly what I did. About maybe 45 seconds after that, I got told by Mark that now was the time I could turn my camera on. And that all shows on my video recording of that meeting, because I was recording at the time when the meeting was supposed to start. The reason I record ahead of time is because sometimes when the meeting is supposed to start, members are not there. Sometimes they don't go ahead with the meeting until the rest of the members show up. Sometimes it's been as late as 7 minutes after the meeting was supposed to begin. Guess what, folks? It's still my legal right to film during all that time, from the time the meeting is supposed to begin until whenever it is, either they say they're not going to hold the meeting or whatever, till they wrap it up. I am a legitimate member of the press, and I think I have more viewership on my blog than does the Morrison County Record. They only reach 6,000 or so households. My blog is going anywhere from 35,000 page views to 50,000 page views, and sometimes it even exceeds that per month.
Mm-hmm. There are people who faithfully follow your blog because it's very intelligent. It's tightly packed, lots of information that people are interested in.
Well, I'm a valid news source. I'm a news reporter.
Absolutely.
I advertised on a bench, advertising bench on City Hall property. Thank you. For 2 years, advertising that I was colorful commentary and local news. Mm-hmm. I'm a valid news resource, reporter.
Exactly.
And so we won't be able to get through all of this, but I want to read this part here that says, I was told at one point that I could, when Chris was here, he used to take my little SD card out of my camera after city council meeting, upload it onto his, and that was for the work session only because the city won't allow this manager to record a city meeting,
right.
The work session.
The work session before the meeting.
Precedes the regular city council meeting. Yeah. So I would come over here after city council meetings would get over, and Chris would take it off my SD card, and he would clip it and put it on TV for me because I asked him to do that. There is no other meeting in town that's as important as that work session.
And it's very important because that's the point at which the public is allowed to step up and make comments or complaints.
Right, and I don't have the training on how to, well, it saved me a step, but more importantly, some of the meetings went longer than what my video clip would allow, and I don't know how to cut and splice. So we'll have to continue on at the next filming.
Yeah.
But we got a good start.
Yeah, we did. Thank you so much for watching. This is Can We Talk? And obviously we can talk with Robin Hensel. I'm Teresa Scorset. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.